Hi, this is Bonnie Soderborg from Group 8. My partners in crime are Dennis Visa and Joseph Udy, and we'll all three be presenting Chapter 18, Create, Review, and Coordination Processes to Increase Quality of Our Current Work. So up until now, we've been talking about development and testing and telemetry, using telemetry to monitor how our processes are going. We haven't talked about one type of telemetry, which is peer review, monitoring changes before things go into production, go into deployment. So we want to reduce the risk of production changes by using small batch changes, so a little bit of code at a time, not 6 months of code at a time. We don't want to depend on external reviews because this really slows the process down. External reviews typically are when a boss of a boss of a boss has to give the okay to deploy the code. And typically that person is not as well acquainted with the code and slows down the process dramatically. So nix on the external review. The kind of review we do want to incorporate, though, are peer reviews. Peer reviews are when you write code and you ask your fellow peer developers to review your code to make sure that you are on track with what is desired in the code. GitHub began the practice of the pull request, which is a great type of peer review.
Understand 5-step control repository management. In these couple slides, we'll talk about the GitHub flow steps. First, engineer creates a descriptive branch off master to work on something new. 2, engineer commits the branch locally and pushes it to the branch on the server. 3, when feedback, help, or merging is needed, they open a pull request. When desired reviews and necessary approvals are reached, they can merge into the master. The engineer can deploy into production once the code changes and is pushed to the master. Examine the dangers of change approval processes. In this slide, we'll talk about the Capital Knife failure, which is resulted in a $440 million loss and is the most prominent software deployment error of recent times. 2 counterfactual narratives explain for why high-profile incidents like this occur. 1, control failure. Better control practices could have detected risk earlier and prevented the change from going into production. And testing failure, because testing practices could have identified risk earlier and canceled the risky deployment. Examine the dangers of micromanaging. Controls are put into place when failures occur, such as adding more questions into the change request form, more authorizations, more lead time for change approvals. These controls can add more friction to the deployment process by multiplying the steps and approvals and increasing batch sizes and deployment lead time.
This is Dennis Visa speaking. Enable coordination and scheduling of changes. Even in loosely coupled architecture, when many teams are doing hundreds of independent developments per day, there may be a risk of changes interfering with others. To mitigate these risks, we may use rooms to announce changes and productivity, find collisions that may exist. Effective change management policies will recover that there are different risks associated with different types of changes, and those changes are handled differently. These processes are defined in 3 different categories. 1, standard changes. 2, normal changes. And 3, urgent changes. Peer review of changes. Instead of requiring approval from an external body prior to development, Require engineers to get peer review of their changes. Everyone must have someone review their changes, i.e., the code environment, before committing to the trunk. As well, everyone should monitor the comment stream of their fellow team members so that potential conflicts can be identified and reviewed. Define which changes qualifies as high risk and require review.
The next topic we want to address is examining potential dangers of manual testing. So oftentimes when there's a test failure, it leads to more tests. People go, okay, that failed. Let's test. Let's figure out why. Let's add more tests. But that's wrong. It just exacerbates the problem. So it slows things down, which means that there are fewer deployments, which means that the change success rates drop, but the mean time to repair rates rise. So it's just the opposite of what you want to see. So while adding manual testing, more of it is not optimal, automated testing is, and automated testing should be part of the design from the get-go. So in conclusion, we learned that peer review is the way to go. It helps to keep developers on track with what is expected, what the customer is expecting, and what the code, how the code should be in production. Part of that peer review is making it a daily happening. So small batches of work are checked in and peers are asked for their reviews. Pull requests are done on a frequent basis. Change implementers, so developers, should be enabled and empowered, and they should own their work. When this happens, it creates a high trust culture, which then leads to the company being successful. And that is our presentation for Chapter 18. Thank you.